Guess what? It's an election year and a big one, not just presidentially, but here in New Mexico, certainly. We want to start with our federal races ahead of the June 2nd primary. There's an open Senate seat, of course, as Tom Udall retires, an open congressional seat in the North as Ben Ray Lujan runs for the Senate, and a tooth and nail battle for the Republican primary in southern New Mexico. Dan, let me start with you. With the Senate, Ben Ray's the man to beat, certainly, as Democrats have essentially cleared the field, as we know. But Republicans have drawn some attention. Elisa Martinez won the primary, as you know. Mark Ronchetti has led the money race, which is interesting. But is there a key dynamic here that's going to turn the key for Republicans? What's missing out there?
Well, I think, there's multiple things missing right now, right? I mean, I'm not sure how excited the state of New Mexico is for the federal race for President Trump and the Joe Biden race. That's going to have a huge impact on the Senate race. I think there's going to be a huge impact. Look, I don't think there's the Democrats have done a phenomenal job of clearing the path for Ben Ray to run for the U.S. Senate. I'm not sure what Republicans have done. I mean, if there's any example of this Republican Party being rudderless and leaderless, it's right now, right? I mean, there's no, we've got this battle going on for the Senate seat, of which anybody would tell you, when you look at the number of votes that are out there and the opportunities we have, probably not going to be a great year for Republicans on a statewide ticket in New Mexico. But yet we're burning a ton of capacity on that race. Now, I will tell you, if it's a chance to win it, it's going to have to win it with an open seat. New Mexico has been very rare to unseat a sitting senator. So, with Ben Ray's age, you have to make sure you put up a fight. I'm not sure that any of the people in that fight are the right people. They're the ones that chose it. But I mean, Mark Ronchetti, other people have sent sports announcers and weathermen to Congress. I'm sure, he definitely is going to have name recognition. But yeah,
let me do this. Let me bring Dee in here real quick on your point there. Ben Ray, like I mentioned, Ben Ray's out there. He's got a ton of money. If it's a money race, can Republicans even raise enough money to have a competitive go at that?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. Plus, he's got the name recognition that the Republican candidates do not have. They're newcomers.
Right.
And even though, this is an open seat, Ben Ray is a known commodity to New Mexicans. And so that kind of makes him the de facto incumbent in some ways. And that's a tremendous advantage. In a time of coronavirus, as we've seen, incumbents and those with the most money have a really big advantage because they can communicate in the only way that's open to them, and that's through the airwaves and digitally.
Yeah. Kathy, an interesting situation's forming in CD2, certainly down south, where Xochitl Torres Small is being chased by Claire Chase and Yvette Herrell in the Republican primary. They're making the most noise. But there's an interesting thing about Trump loyalty going on in that district and who's more loyal to Trump. Statewide, do you think that would work? Let's say if a Republican punched through Mark Ronchetti just to pick somebody, would he actually have the ability to say, I'm just a Trump guy all the way down the line and win a statewide race? Would that work?
So first of all, Gene, I have to ask you, why did you ask me this question? Why?
Right.
No, I don't think so. In a statewide race that would resonate with the voters, but obviously it's the direction they're taking. Like, who is more Trump than the other candidate? So that's what they're doing down there, and I think it was appropriate to say that they're chasing Representative Xochitl Torres, but I don't think in a statewide race that's going to play well. New Mexico is a blue state. I think we're going to stay a blue state, and as Dan said, it doesn't bode well for the Republicans in this upcoming race.
Dan, let me get you to swing the CD2 real quick. I mean, you can do it in 30 seconds. I want to get up north as well, but your sense of this Trump loyalty thing down there, is it a long-term winner, or is this just noise for the moment?
Gene, it's no different than what we just saw in the presidential race, right? For the Democrats, everybody's got to run as far to the left as they can to win the primary, and then you try to tack back to the center once the general happens. You're seeing the same thing in the CD2 race. Everybody's trying to run as far to the right to win the primary, and then they're going to tack back to to try to be middle of the road when they're doing that. Everybody right now is running to say that they're the most Trump-like, But I could tell you 30 seconds after they win the primary, not necessarily CD2, but definitely on a statewide race, they're going to move directly away from President Trump, as anybody would, and try to be that moderate, middle of the road New Mexican that I think people think can win elections in this state.
Yeah. Hey, Didi, let's go up north real quick. Field of 7 Democrats looking for that nom for the Ben Ray seat. What's your sense of that race in the overall, that primary? Then we'll get into the details of who.
Well, I think in some ways it's kind of a jump ball at this point. The lead, according to the polls, I think the Teresa Fernandez Leger, or Leger Fernandez, is in the lead, and she's drawn the fire from other candidates. From it's kind of becoming a mud bath up there in some ways, in the same way it is down south, in that, you know, dark money, but the issue there is dark money coming in, and the candidates themselves being blamed for the dark money that is actually spent independently. You know, and during the debate, Teresa was called upon to stop the dark money. I'm not sure she even could. And then there's recently been a negative ad against Valerie Plame that is extremely inflammatory, and everyone's saying, "Oh no! Stop the sky is falling! Stop you've got to stop these things." And it's, you know, the way that's going, candidates are less in control, actually, of what's going on.
That's a good way to put it. Exactly right. You know, Kathy McGill, that Valerie Plame ad Senator just referenced, I think the key line is, why is Valerie Plame bringing her hate to New Mexico? And there's accusations of Nazi sympathizing. And I mean, it's pretty brutal as these things go.
Out of line. It's really out of line. And, you know, I think that it's not going to play well among the voting public, although we know that people talk a lot about negative campaigning and how the dark money influences voters. I definitely don't think that Valerie Plame, although I love her commercial and I could listen to it, the ones that she put out for her campaign, I could watch her commercial every day. I don't think that she's got legs in the race in terms of being the front runner. And I think that Teresa, you know, in my opinion, you know, has those votes in CD2. So I believe that those kinds of commercials are truly out of line, and that people are looking at it saying, you know, you went too far on this one.
Gotcha. Kathy McGill, Didi Feldman, Dan Foley, thank you all very much. Really appreciate your efforts this week. Please stay safe and healthy, for sure. We're talking legislative races next week, so be sure to catch that conversation.